Hey folks, Quilly here, and welcome to some more Microsoft Flight Simulator. And today we're going to feature something called OnAir, OnAir Company or OnAir Airline Manager. OnAir is one of the several third-party tools that integrate with your various favorite flight simulators and provide a kind of business management aspect to flying. You can use this as a way to give yourself extra context for what you might be doing in your flight simulators. It's sort of being assigned missions. It's not exactly missions. You'll see what I'm talking about once we get into it. But it gives you some real purpose to your flying and encourages you really to go to airports that you've probably never seen before, because you're going to have some jobs that send you in different directions for different things, which sounds really great. Unlike some of the others, OnAir is a pay product. There is a subscription. There's a 7-day free trial. After that, it is a subscription. It's not too expensive, but it is a pay product. I do want a disclaimer that I am on their partner. I got a partner code for it, so I've got my subscription here covered for me by OnAir. So I want to get that out of there and right away. I do think this is very spiffy, though. I've been a big fan of FS Economy for a long time, and there's starting to be a lot of buzz about OnAir, and I was finally like, okay, I better check this out, and I've got to say, it's pretty slick. Whereas FS Economy is a little bit of, it's not that hard to use, but the website does feel a little bit archaic. Whereas with OnAir, you get the standalone program that actually feels pretty slick to play with. You can manage your business. What's interesting about OnAir, you don't even have to actually play this game with a flight simulator. You can play it completely simply as a business sim, because you can hire employees and use AI pilots to do all your various routes. There's pilots, there's so actually right here, pilots, co-pilots. You can see flight attendants, mechanics. These are all people that we can recruit to do various things if we want. You can purchase businesses at airports as well that will be used by other players, because this is actually played in an online persistent world. I think there were 3 worlds to choose from. I chose Cumulus, which was the it's set up as a little bit more of a casual experience to start off with. The other thing you can do, so there's this whole sort of survival mode set of options, which is in here. By default, when you create your company, you are in survival, or hardcore mode is maybe what you would think about it. More realistic limitations on things. Time of day is all paid attention to. While you can use time acceleration for some of these flights, so if you take a job that's like a 4-hour flight, but you don't have that long, you can use time acceleration inside of your flight simulator to accelerate that. But if you're playing in hardcore mode, in survival mode, after you land and you complete your flight, the OnAir will tell you, you've completed this flight, that's great, but this is a 4-hour flight, you only took an hour. That plane is locked for another 3 hours because it's still simulating that flight in the virtual persistent world. It stops you from, being able to use a plane more than is reasonable. However, if you turn off the survival mode, then you get more flexibility about all that. You can basically play it loosey-goosey any way that you would like. The difference is, if you play in survival mode, you can actually show up on like sort of scoreboards and things like that and compare yourself to other companies, which is really cool. And if you want to play strict, you can do that. Once you've turned off the survival mode, you can't turn it back on in this company. You'd have to start something else, maybe on one of the other servers, for example. We'll talk about a few more of these options as we jump in. But let's talk about the situation here. After you do the tutorial, the game does set you up with a certain amount of starting cash and 1 airplane. It is a Cessna 172, which is a great way to start. You are not in any way limited to just that. You can very easily purchase more airplanes in the game using the in-game currency. There's no microtransactions or anything like that, right? You just earn money by completing flights. You can then use that money in the game to purchase aircrafts. You can also rent aircrafts, and renting is actually fairly inexpensive. So you find a cool job that you like, you need an aircraft of a certain size because you got a certain amount of passengers or a certain amount of weight to carry. You just rent an aircraft that will perform that, or maybe it's one of your favorite aircrafts. Like for me, I really like the TBM 930, so I could just rent that, complete some missions with it, make some money, ideally make more money doing the missions than paying in rent, and then maybe eventually purchasing my own, although that might require additional staff, it might require co-pilot, it might require flight attendants, it might require all kinds of things like that to manage it. So, big responsibility. You can pause the your company basically, because you have some expenses depending on what you've got going on. You might have debt, you might have buildings that you're paying maintenance for, you might have employees. You can, in these options, whenever you want, you can just go ahead and pause the company, and nothing will happen. You're going away for a couple of days, hit that pause button, and you don't have to worry about losing out on anything. Also, while you're actually doing the flying, as mentioned, you can use time acceleration. You can also pause the simulator. You can actually, like, if in case of a crash, or just you willingly can exit the simulator, come back the next day, resume your flight, And OnAir is totally cool with all that kind of stuff. So it's really, I think it's really compatible for people who have a mix of different lives, whether you want to play this 8 hours a day every day of the week, or you've only got a couple days every other, or a couple of hours every other day or something like that to play. All of it should work perfectly groovy. Let's go and set up a flight. So currently, I actually haven't done that many things. You can see it's a fairly new business. I have this one aircraft, and it's currently parked here at Charlie Charlie Tango 2. This is a grass strip in southern Ontario. I'm just parked here. The grass strip is just off to the other side. I had a mission to deliver some goods over here. Luckily, despite being just a grass strip, right over here there is a building, and in fact this airport does have some services. It's got an FBO present which can provide me with fuel. Not every one of these minor airports have got that, so you got to be, keep an eye on things. There are ways to still get yourself some fuel, even if you're somewhere that is not being supplied, but it's it's not going to be quite as pleasant. It'll be a little bit more costly, so it's nice to keep these sorts of things in mind. I did, when you create your company, you do choose an initial base of operation. I chose Pearson International Airport, CYYZ, to operate out of, and it started me there. It's actually got a bit of a mission waiting for me there as well, which I would like to go back to because it's worth good money and good experience. Experience points, you can in fact level up. There's a level over here. This does translate to being able to get skill points to unlock extra features. For example, if you want to carry passengers at all, you need a passenger license. I'm working my way over here. I want to carry dangerous goods. Sounds like a lot of fun. Again, if you're not playing on survival mode, there's actually a little checkbox here, unlock all skill trees. So you can access everything right from the start if you would like to do it. Again, I love that it's got both the hardcore realism for people who want that, and the, listen, ain't nobody got time for this, just unlock everything for me right away, please. So I had to drop off some goods over here at Charlie Charlie Tango 2, this airstrip. But I would really like to get back to Pearson International Airport because I do have a pending job. If I go and take a look at my pending jobs list, there's a shortcut there. It's got this mission waiting for me at home. It's going to be worth a ton of XP. The mission I just did, I think, gave me something like 19 XP. This one's 2,000 XP. It's also really good payment. It is a fairly involved job, though. This one job is actually multiple deliveries, all coming out from Pearson and all delivering goods somewhere else. So I'd like to start tackling this soon if I can, but for that I have to get back to Pearson. Now I can just fly my plane there, as long as it's being tracked here in OnAir, which I can do by preparing a flight here. As long as it's tracked here, when I land somewhere, OnAir knows that's where my plane is supposed to be, which is really nifty. But I may as well do a job. So from this airport, which I'm going to click into over here, actually, I just realized this button, this shortcut button, is available on the previous screen. This is look for jobs at this airport. It's also right here. The airport where my airplane is, I would like to find jobs over there. That's what I'm trying to access. So here are jobs. You can filter all kinds of different things. You can specify an airport. So whenever you're looking for a job, you can just type in an airport over here. By default, it'll be jobs from that airport. You can also say jobs to that airport if that's what you want. I think if I go specific airport, if I do this... no jobs are matching a filter. There's no job from Cookstown to Pearson that, I mean, there might not be any jobs, period, but there also might not be any within the maximum weight and number of passengers that I have specified over here. That's okay. So just give me jobs from here. That's going to be okay. And I'm looking to go south. I want to get closer to Pearson. So this is a job going south. You can sort actually by heading here. You can see, I think, this one's giving me, yeah, it's actually really short, 15 nautical miles directly south. Oh shoot, why don't I just do it? It'll only pay me 120 bucks and give me no XP. I mean, you know what? It's actually probably perfect for this video. Let's do that. Not super impressive, but it'll get the work done. So I'm gonna accept this job, which I now have. There you go. Job is in the queue, and I can prep. I can just go and prepare my flight right over here. So, actually, if you go back onto the screen, you can see the plane condition and engine over here. Having to do repairs and things is part of the game for sure. So you have to keep that in mind. All right, this fuel level here is not from the simulator. It's from inside of OnAir. This is how much fuel I had when I landed at this airfield. I actually took off from Rhode Island. I think this is the state I was in. It was Kilo Whiskey Sierra Tango was the airport I took off from. I took off with about 51 gallons of fuel, made it here. Fuel does cost money. to fill up. So you got to keep in mind, right now I've got about 150 nautical miles of range, which should be plenty. I think the low fuel warning will be on in the plane when I take off, but we are going to be fine. It is important to note that you do gain reputation for every flight that you complete. Safety violations and, you know, airport or airplane sort of regulation violations will ding your reputation. Potentially a lot. In particular, I can tell you this for a fact: if you land with less than 30 minutes of fuel remaining in your plane, you will get a substantial ding to the reputation gain from your mission, because that is no good. But for now, we're okay. I've got to carry 35 pounds worth of cargo, which is no big deal in any way whatsoever. We're ready to go. I can confirm the fuel payload, or I can confirm and go fly now, which is both just as convenient. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this. So we've got 190 pounds of pilot, 35 pounds of cargo. By default, normally it takes time to load your cargo, load your fuel if need be, and so on and so forth. Here, it's not a big deal. What was my mission? Oh, right over here. We're going to CNT 8 is where we're going. Portageville. Oh, wonderful. It is a size 1 airport. I think where I'm landing now, I don't remember if I'm currently at a size 1. Yeah, I'm at a size 1 airport. This grass strip is just a size 1 airport, but it's got fuel. We got that. Plugs in an alternate just for funsies. If this plane, some planes need a co-pilot, some need flight attendants. As it turns out, though, I don't need it for this plane, nor do I actually have one. If I had an AI pilot, I could also just have the pilot fly this for me. Similarly, if I'm in the middle of nowhere and I want to get back to an interesting airport, if I had an AI pilot, I could just tell my pilot to go there, with or without, you know, sort of cargo or passengers, and then I could just come back later and the plane would be where it's supposed to be. So we can go to the flight tracking page. Now, this is going to start tracking the aircraft right away, or actually not until we hit start tracking. One of the things you're going to want to do ideally is you should have your plane sort of cold and dark, your engine not running when you start tracking, because it wants to, by default, it's hoping to track your startup procedure, make sure you do everything correctly, so that it can, you know, reward you or penalize you for not doing things right. If you start with your plane already going, you won't get quite as much reputation from the mission. It's also, there's currently in Microsoft Flight Simulator, if you do start tracking with the plane on, it'll actually give you a penalty for starting the engine without your beacon and strobe being on. Even if when you start, like in Microsoft Flight Simulator, when you start your flight, you're going to be starting on a runway with your engine on and running and everything and all your lights on, but it will currently in OnAir give you a little bit of penalty for that. That's something they are working with Asobo to tweak. It's something with the Microsoft Flight Simulator API and the way that they get the information out of it. It's not exactly the way that one might like. I want to get started my flight relatively soon here. So is there anything else I need to prep before we go? Well, so fuel and payload, we need to have 15.43 gallons of fuel, because that is what the simulator is looking for, and we should have total payload weight of 225. It assumes 190 for the pilot, and then we've got the 35 pounds of cargo over there. Now, you can pre-configure it, and in fact, just to say, I will go ahead and do the weight. I found if you don't do the weight by hand, sometimes it's a little bit weird. Doing the fuel can be pretty fiddly. Luckily, what'll happen normally with these buttons here where it says auto set, when you start tracking, it's going to go ahead and set those. So I'm actually going to tell it to start tracking. The other thing is you can teleport your plane. Like let's say in the simulator, if I loaded up the plane, I was in, I don't know, Brussels or something like that. I was in the wrong place in Microsoft Flight Simulator. The little button there, you can click it. It'll teleport the plane in the simulator to where it's supposed to be for OnAir. But everything was okay over here because I was at the correct airport. I thought I was moving, but I think it's just the winds going back and forth. If we check over here, there you go. Fuel is where it's supposed to be, and it should have also set the payload as well. Every now and again, I find it a little twitchy over here, so it might be a little easier, because what happens here, if I change this, I think it's a bug in Microsoft Flight Simulator, by the way, not OnAir. If you make a change to the payload now, it might reset the fuel to what it just was, which is bad and wrong. I found, at least, I think it's just a Microsoft Flight Simulator bug. You might want to just type in your payload manually. The fuel it handles just great, but the problem is it doesn't always carry over the payload, and then when I type this in, it resets the fuel because of the Flight Simulator bug. That's all I'm trying to get to in kind of a roundabout way. Okay, we are ready for a little bit of a startup. I mean, what I should really do is do the checklist. Oh, yeah, of course, this is still the same flight. In fact, when we start this up, it's probably going to have a purple line for the track. Oh, no, maybe not. Didn't know if it still had my old flight thing. So I'm going to skip through most of this. I'm just going to make sure that, let's see, this should all be fine because this is still from the old flight. Sorry, that's not the fuel valve. Fuel valve is over here, which I didn't mess with. This is set to normal. Everything is going to be okay. So make sure idle cutoff. Yes, we're going to have about, call it about that much. Prop air is clear. We're going to go and turn on our batteries. Beacon is going to come on. Mixture is going to go to fully rich. Maybe. Sometimes when it's at the edge of the camera like this, I find sometimes it's a little hard to click on things. Aux fuel pump. We shouldn't have to do this because we are already, the engine should be full of stuff. Oh, then we lean the mixture at that point. Rich when engine starts. I see. Well, we can do Control-Shift F1 to fully lean out.
Your flight will be monitored until you land and shut down the engines.
Good stuff. All right. Parking brake is still on. Yep, good. Excellent. So this has been sitting here for a little bit. We may want to wait for the fuel or the oil temperature to come online, but that should happen relatively quickly. We'll turn on our avionics. That's going to be groovy. Radios and everything should be on. Flaps up. Yeah, that's actually... The flaps were down, you may have noticed before I started the plane. That's because I forgot to bring them up before I shut the plane off. So they were still down, but now that the plane is on, the flaps controls are there, they're fully up. All right, we are going where? Well, if we come back over here, so our flight, we've got a little arrow showing this direction, and we're going to CNT8. What I'm going to do, this is fairly close. I did the flight from Rhode Island to here. I did it all VOR style. It was a lot of fun. But for this, we're going to be a fairly short flight. What we're going to do is we're going to come over here. I'm just going to dial in direct. And we are going to see... Almost sounds dirty. NT... It was 8, wasn't it? I think so. T... 8. Pottageville, that is correct. Enter. Actually, I need the cursor back. Go to activate. Enter that. So I got a purple line. It's more or less directly south. The plan is definitely going to be, we're going to be taking off facing south to start off with, and then we'll work our way in that direction, and hopefully it's a good... I've never been there. I could load up some charts and things, but we'll just fake it. It's going to be okay. Low fuel warning is on because we are fairly low on the fuel tanks, but it should be more than enough for what we're looking to do over here with no real problems. All right, let's turn on the strobe with the taxi. We'll turn on the lights. It's warm enough. We're not going to need any pitot heat. It's such a short trip as well. We're not going to go very high, so that's going to be fine. Okay. We're going to get going. There's a few more things that I would normally do for maybe full realism, but we're just going to go. I think the wind is coming from the south. I don't believe here we don't have... Oh, yeah. That's clear for runway. We don't have any ATIS over here, but it should be fine. It's a wind coming in from the south. I just checked. It's not super strong, I believe, so we're going to be okay. So we're going to take off facing south into the wind, and it just so happens that's also the direction we're going to want to move into. So we'll just go and release the parking brake, and we'll trundle along here on the grass over to the northern end of the grass strip, which acts as a runway over here. This is going to be a little lumpy and bumpy. There's not even a windsock, is there? Wow. I was like, hold on, I know how to check the wind direction if we don't have ATIS. Well, actually, what I'd probably do at this point is load up the website called Windy. I am playing this real-time, real weather. Luckily, it's a fairly nice day here in Southern Ontario today. And yeah, I just realized, I think the wind is actually coming in, it'll be on our left when we line up on the runway. A little bit of a headwind, slightly coming in from the left, but not too significantly, is I think where we left things off. I don't even know where the end of the runway is. It's just grass and grass and more grass. Luckily, we don't need much of a run up here to get the Cessna off the ground. Look at the turn coordinator. Why is it telling us? It must be some pressure from the wind that's implying something, or it's engine torque. A lot of people have talked about that these single prop planes really seem, I don't know if it's engine torque or what, but they really like to shift it to one side on the ground. Similar things happen in TBM, which is a single prop, turboprop, but still a single, and you really notice it. Man, what I wouldn't give for a little signage over here. Looks like I'm about halfway down the runway at this point. It's not like there's even a taxiway or anything. Well, again, we'll fake things a little. Okay, well, we can see the end of the runway now, such as it is. All right, we'll do a U-turn right over here. Do be careful about the trees. Collision is enabled on trees, I believe. So try not to clip them when you're at these types of airports. There we go. We're out of the real rough stuff. Slow things down, and let's do a little bit of a U-turn here. We should be able to take off flaps 1 perfectly okay. The big question will be, how controllable is this plane on this grass strip? Whew! Okay. Up over here, flaps 1, engine fully rich. Landing lights will turn you on. We can turn the taxi lights off at this point. Let's go. Throttle up smoothly. Yeah, look at it. It wants to just shift to the left. And I think the wind is coming from the left, so I think it really is just something about prop torque or something like that. I don't know. Oh, now we're going to the right. Now that we sped up, the plane is definitely trying to drift to the right, which might be more of a wind thing. Oh, I did not check my trim. That's what I forgot to check before takeoff. A little oopsie doodle over there. There's 60 knots. Yeah, we're gonna clear those trees. I probably should have gone. Maybe I should have gone for full flaps here, short runway kind of configuration. But no, all right, we're fine. A little farmers over here. Okay. I'm going to climb. We got about 80 knots right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the flaps, which will increase speed and decrease lift. I'm just going to try to maintain about 80 knots for now for this initial climb out. Okay. 1,200 feet and rising nicely. No gears to bring up, of course. And the airport we're going to is basically just straight shot south. Based on the GPS over here, less than 10 minutes in the air. If there was a radio tower nearby, we could have tuned that as well and get the DME information. I still have Syracuse from my flight. Again, it was Rhode Island over, I guess, New York State to over here in Southern Ontario. I should be monitoring my things. And yeah, if you have this turned in, assuming it's a VR with DME, then you can get some distance information that way. I could have put a little fuel in, of course, then we would have been heavier and maybe the trees would have been that much more of a problem. What I could do here, if I don't want to deal with too much, so, I mean, we're going straight south. It's what, 0 to 179, you would go odd, so we'll call it, I mean, I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a drift. I'm going to say we're going to go for an even altitude. We'll just do something like 2,000 feet. Like, why not, right? Let's try to head back. I think I'm being blown a little here. So I think what I have to do is face slightly east to actually track directly south because of the wind here. If we did use the GPS to, or the autopilot to just track this GPS heading, it would hold on to that. Oop, I've crossed 2,000 feet. I was trying to narrate the wrong thing here. Nose down a little aggressively here. I'm just relaxing my yoke. Now, as our speeds change, some things will tweak a little bit here. Nose continue to descend ever so slightly. We'll try to even out at around 2,000 ourselves. Quite nose down, and the speed is going up, but I don't want to back throttle. I would, because in the simulator you really care about your fuel burn, having appropriate mixtures and leaning out your mixture to not use too much fuel is kind of nice. Typically, you don't. The rule of thumb on the Cessna is not to lean, or you lean once you get to like 3,000 feet, and generally speaking, level as well. Although, we could definitely lean here as well. It's such a short flight, it's not really much of a big deal. But our fuel flow right now is about 16 gallons an hour. And the Cessna you usually eyeball around 10 gallons an hour. By the way, when you're doing these flights with the Cessna and you're trying to figure out things like your fuel requirements, eyeball, generally speaking, your flight is going to be at about 100 knots, and you'll burn about a 10 gallons of fuel per hour. So, yeah, based on your distance, you're like, okay, well, this is how long the flight's going to take. and also based on your distance / time, this is how much fuel I'm going to need, so you can bring in the appropriate amount. All right, I was trying to drift south a little bit, or sorry, east a little bit here, just to get back on track. Not that I have to be on the track. As long as I'm flying vaguely south, we should get to the airport. Theoretically, this flight, being done under VFR rules. Oh, I'm drifting up again. And I just maybe use some landmarks to guide things, or as long as I'm going vaguely south, I'll be able to spot the airport at some point. But we can also confirm with the GPS that everything is okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just flick the autopilot on. So, and lock on to this altitude. Actually, yeah, I don't actually want to be here. I'm just releasing all the pressure. That wasn't trimmed exactly perfectly. Okay, thank you there. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to vertical speed mode. There we go. 2,000 feet. Just descend ever so slightly. Actually, descend a little bit more. Okay, this will let me do commentary a little more. We just got on roll mode, so just going to try to keep the wings level. It's not doing any sort of heading bug or nav stuff. That's going to be okay. I just wanted to be able to not worry too much about monitoring the altitude. Speed is good. I mean, again, we're running fully rich. Let's go ahead and lean this out a little bit. So with the fuel flow, I mean, really, at cruise, you're going to be in the green area over here. But, oh, by the way, I'm using the older version of the Cessna 172, which is actually part of the premium pack of Microsoft Flight Simulator. You can see the fuel flow hasn't really changed, despite the fact that I'm mixed over here. There is something weird with the Microsoft Flight Simulator Cessna with the mixture. The power at different mixtures doesn't seem quite right. Neither does some of the fuel flow stuff. Like, we're at 32% over here. It's really weird. Anyway, we're in the green. The appropriate mixture. So basically, when your engine, you need the right balance of oxygen to fuel to burn. If your mixture is too rich, what ends up happening is like a bunch of the fuel that you're pumping into the engine just gets blown out of the exhaust right over here. So you're just wasting fuel for nothing. It also can impede the performance a little bit. Generally speaking, running too rich, it's mostly just wasting fuel for no good reason. There's the airport I'm going to. You can monitor the exact exhaust gas temperature. There's a little red needle you can set to wherever. This just as a bookmark, doesn't do anything by itself. You can monitor like sort of the high point, and then generally speaking you lean until it drops a little bit past there, and then that's usually a really good balance of power while also being relatively fuel efficient. So I actually know nothing about this airport that we're going to. Airport details. Wait, it doesn't even have a runway listed in OnAir. Normally it would have all the runways, the length, the ILS. It's very convenient to have that information over here. We know it's at about 1,000 feet above sea level. Now, let me see. Does it have nearest approach? Tajville. Yeah, it's just traffic, so there's no ATIS. I'm gonna use the cheat key. If you just hit B, it'll set your barometer for your altimeter to the correct air pressure where you are. A little bit of a cheat. So we were basically tuned right from the landing. I think what I'd done is I tuned a nearby airport to get the information. Now, if this turns out, it's entirely possible there's no airport here whatsoever, and we're just landing in a field, which is interesting, and that's my first time. Now, unfortunately, I don't have like a version of the Cessna with like the big giant big wheels to just land in a field here. We'll do a little flyover and see what the deal is. This is actually incredibly interesting. I kind of think, I mean, unless that's supposed to be a paved runway over here. No, that's water. Yeah, right over here. Yeah, there's not really a problem. We're just bush plane flying here. We don't have the right wheels on this to do bush plane flying. But we're going to try it anyway. Prepare yourself for rip. Okay, what I'm going to do then is let's find out properly what the wind is like. Let's go back. Nobleton, do you have... Nope. Landing air park? Nope. Aerodrome? Nope, not traffic. Sorry, my bad. What sounds... This sounds like a real airport. Is it because I'm just in landing mode? Just try. Dude, none of these airports have any ATIS. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open a website, which is very handy. It's called windy.com. This thing is fantastic. And we are landing at Potageville Airport. That's not the code, but this seems to be correct. No METAR. Yeah, well, no kidding. But we can take a look at the prevailing wind. So this is on the surface. You can choose the different levels as well. On the surface, over here, if you click, 8 knots coming in from the west. Okay, that's good to know. I don't need you. That was my previous flight. 8 knots coming in from the west. So let's turn off the autopilot. So ideally, I would like to land facing west. This is fascinating. And this is one of the great things. This is like one of the things that is great about doing something like OnAir or FS Economy or really any of those, is they will bring you to airports that you're not necessarily looking for. There is an option, so this airport is very small. There's an option in here, options, global settings, right here, use small airports. By default, it's off. By default, OnAir will not send you to airports like this, but I actually intentionally left it on. I turned it on intentionally because I wanted to I wanted to experience these small airplanes. I like the little bush flying in GA stuff. I could do some of these flights in an ultralight, which would be really great. So let's do another flyover and try to pick our spot here. There was that sort of vague straight line. There's this field over here. Now, the actual point in-game, where Microsoft Flight Simulator feels this airport is sort of centered around there. Yeah, maybe that would be best. I'm wondering if I just land south over here. As my speed. Overspeeding. Let's bring down the speed as we do the little reconnaissance laps, really. Alright, yeah, I can probably do that. The wind was coming basically straight west, so, and this to me looks like a mostly north-south kind of runway. So let me come around and we will land, we'll land facing roughly north. So I'm going to turn south. I'm going to try to put some distance. Speed is bleeding off. Throttle up a little. I don't have infinite fuel to muck about here. You can, of course, just abandon a mission as well, if you would like. Nothing wrong with that. Alright, coming around south. Just sort of doing a right-handed traffic thing. But there's no... I think that de facto, if the assumption is actually left-handed traffic, there is a little indicator on the ground, like you can actually find by these airports, that have a symbol to basically tell you what direction the traffic pattern is. But I don't think this airport has that, because it's basically nothing. And B, I don't think anyone else is landing here, so I don't think we have to worry too much about entering the traffic in the wrong way. Okay, let's go ahead and let's configure flaps 1. Since we're in a green arc, we can deploy flaps. Let's go ahead and make the turn. Coming back around north. I'm going to bank fairly aggressively here, which is monitored and tracked in the simulator, as well as G-forces, because excessive amounts of those are not good for building a reputation for safety and comfort. So it is actually important to fly vaguely the way you want. Okay, no, we're actually fairly lined up. I'm too high. Well, that's all right. I'm just going to bring the throttle all the way back down to idle. I'm going to descend fairly quickly here and then level off a little bit. Okay, that's looking a little better. Looks like I probably want to go a little to the right and then realign. It's hard without any markings. I'm just using that sort of worn path here as a bit of an idea. I think I'm still a little high, so I'm going to try to drop a little quickly now. Okay. So we've got flap. Actually, let's go full flaps at this point. Yes, good. Excellent. I'm still on idle. Just avoiding some of these trees. Speed's actually decent and dropping, which is where I want it. Just going to apply a little rudder here. I hope that's not some water. Like, this is just a little walking path. And we're going to dip a toe into a little bit of a swamp as well. Whoa!
Charlie
Oh my god.
November Tango
Plane just decided to
College
rip to the left after landing. Oh, that needed a lot of rudder. And heavy... Oh! Okay, so, a couple of things. This is water. Isn't it? Maybe not. Maybe not. I guess I'll get clear of the runway? This is amazing. Yeah, a little path. Part of the reason I landed this way is because I knew there was a little path that bent over this way, and it felt like, you know, a little something something. Now I'm assuming this place doesn't have fuel. Actually, I should have got fuel at the last airport, because this one ain't got none. So I'll just sort of come around like this, and actually I'll be ready to depart again, because I can just take a right turn. So let's go and activate the parking brake. We're going to turn off all of our lights, and we will...
Engine off, time logged. End of flight. Registered in OnAir company.
Excellent. So if we pop back over to OnAir company, we've completed this flight. We got reputation, so it's a really short flight. We got basically no reputation, 0.06, but we got no penalties, which is great. We actually got XP bonuses, comfort bonus because we were within flight rules in terms of G-forces and whatnot, an extra safety bonus for some extra rules. There's a full manual, by the way, to find out about where all these things are coming in from. Aircraft handling bonus. That's great. So we got some own XP. Not much. I think we had a base 0 XP for this. So 0 multiplied by 20% is still 0. But that's okay. We got a little wear and tear for a short flight. But I've completed another tiny little mission here and got a couple of bucks for it. Not too shabby. And then hopefully here I can get some other jobs and go to Toronto. But actually, I don't even need it. I could just decide, listen, I just want to fly. I've got no cargo, no missions, nothing like that. Oh my god, this place, there is fuel. It's more expensive. $4.23 a gallon. I think the last place was $3.50 a gallon. I really should have filled up there. My goal here is just going to be to fly to probably Pearson, land there, and take some other missions. But there you go. I mean, there's a little example of some basic flying here. Again, if we looked at, actually, let me do this. If we go to airports, if I go to Pearson, come on, right over there. Show me Toronto Pearson. Thank you very much. Because I looked at some of the missions. Did I look at the aircraft stuff? If we want to search all the aircrafts available here, we've got this. We got multiple pages that we can go through. And some of them are available to buy. Some of them are available to rent. Some of them aren't available for anything. Any plane you own, you can put up for sale or put up to rent if you would like. And so that's, you know, if I'm tired of flying in the 172, here we go. Beach King King Air 350. It seems to be very popular. Lots of them here. Lots of them rented for different things. This one is just owned. But yeah, we could search around for one that is available to either purchase or rent. Of course, we can sort by plane, sort by cost as well, which might be interesting. What we might do is something like, listen, what's the cheapest plane we could buy? So I sorted by buy. These aren't for sale. They're for 0. We're looking at purchasing. Okay, Carbon Cub, $10,000. Another 172 we get for 107,000. It's currently rented by someone, but we could purchase it. And then we could either keep it available for rental, or what we could do is just use some AI pilots to fly this around. C-182, 122, that's interesting. TBM 900, we're looking at nearly $500,000 at this point. Not a bad plane. A 2.8 Grand Caravan. These Grand Caravans can carry a lot more. They are actually pretty significant little planes there. There's the first King Air. 1.2 million. But look at the rental fees. I think this is by hour, but you know, depending on the jobs, and of course some of these jobs can be very, very lucrative. If we look to find a job over here, let's say we look at the longest jobs, right? Show me long haul flights from here with I wonder if I just blank this out. Oh no, you need something? Okay. Up to 500 passengers and 40,000 tons of cargo, and sort by payment. So here's the highest paying job with this filter that I can find here at Toronto. It's actually got 2 legs. It needs me to fly from Toronto to, where is this? And then another one. So 2 flights from Toronto to there. One of them has to be flown manually, which is this one. Cannot be flown by an AI pilot. This one could. So if I had 2 planes, we could do them simultaneously. There's no time limit on these though. I think this expires. I think this is the expiration to claim the job. I'm actually not sure. I'd have to check the manual. But what I could do is take one of these, especially one that's not going to expire for a while, fly one of these legs now, then find a mission that'll send me back to Pearson or near Pearson, and then get back to Pearson and do the second branch. I mean, $10 million payout over here. One flight requires 436 passengers of technicians here. The other flight is just 39, so I probably wouldn't use a giant plane for this. Although you can pick up multiple groups of passengers, multiple pieces of cargo that all fly to the same place. There's no limitation, as far as I know, of how many of those you can put in your plane, assuming your plane's got the passenger capacity and the weight capacity to have all those added together, right? Like if you've got a 500 capacity plane, you could take 2 jobs that needed 250 passengers and carry them both at the same time. So you could double up on some of that. So you can also, just limit the number of legs available. What is that? Oh, expand all. Ooh. Oh, that was a little laggy. There we go. To expand that's actually quite cool. So these here that have one, this is just a single step. So you can keep track of that. So $8 million to deliver nearly 450 passengers to Kurgan, which is where? Kurgan. In Russia! Whoa, that is quite the flight. From here to there, not even on the outskirts of Russia. Wow, that is an intense flight. Again, you don't have to do it as a single leg, right? You could go partway through, you could land in, say, the UK, refuel, and then continue on from there. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe I can get if I can get a job that wants me to land anywhere sort of in Western Europe that I can take and still have room for this mission to Kurgan, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's pretty brilliant. Then I can double stack on it. Maybe I can do some more, turn into a little local as opposed to express. Anyway, that's a quick little look at OnAir. I've been having fun with it. Again, only did a handful of flights in my real company here as opposed to the tutorial. Looking forward to get back to Pearson, because I do have this pending job with 5 legs, 5 different flights out from Pearson, but assuming I can manage the cargo okay, we might be able to double up. Like, what's the part to the north here to Wyerton, or Wyerton Willie lives? I think that's right over here, 129. And the next one is CYCE, which is here, 229. I should be able to carry, that's going to be, 350 and change? Yeah, pounds worth of cargo. I should be able to do all that. I should be able to pick up both, fuel up enough to get to Wyerton, refuel in Wyerton to then land in Huron, and then probably go back to Pearson and pick up the other packages. Actually these two would probably be pretty easy because they're fairly close together depending on the weights again. It's this one here to, what's the CYQS? St. Thomas, which is over here. It needs 448 pounds of cargo. I probably can't double stack that. But yeah, I think we could probably do these two back to Pearson. These two back to Pearson in whatever order. And then down by itself here, finish this whole thing for a nice payout of 7,500 and 2,000 XP, which is a tremendous amount of XP at this point. I would unlock many things on my, what do they call it? The skill tree. I would unlock many skill trees over there. Anyway, the integrations of the map, everything looks just slick and wonderful. I really am impressed with OnAir. Again, it's not free, but if you want a fun way to have some sort of, more variation in what kind of flying you might do, flying with a purpose, I guess it is, you could look into something like this. Again, FS Economy is quite good as well. And there's a 7-day trial for OnAir here too. I will be doing some streams for this at some point, and I actually have some codes to give away for you guys if you would like for something like that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.